Hello, this is News Now, reaching you live from iBrandTV News Studio in Lagos, Nigeria. Coming up, President Muhammadu Buhari sacks Minister of Agriculture and his power counterpart. Resident doctors fume as federal government fails to pay August salary in compliance with no work, no pay rule. UK house price accelerate in August with values now 13% higher than before the pandemic. Google founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin record impressive gains of $93.6 billion in 8 months. Glad to have you join us here, and here are some stories we're tracking at this hour. My name is Margaret Opera. Now we'll begin with this developing story stating that President Muhammadu Buhari has relieved 2 ministers of their appointments. They are Ministers of Agriculture Mohammed Nanono and his power counterpart Saleh Maman. The Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, announced this on Wednesday in Abuja after the Federal Executive Council meeting. He disclosed that the Minister of Environment, Mohammed Abubakar, has been redeployed to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, while the Minister of State for Works, Abubakar Aliyu, is to take over as Minister of Power. The exercise, according to Adesina, will continue in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. And moving on, resident doctors on Tuesday claimed the federal government had refused to pay their August salary in compliance with the no work, no pay rule recently invoked. The national president of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, Uyilawa, confirmed this development. The resident doctors had on August 2nd, 2021, embarked on a strike. All efforts so far made by the government, including approaching the National Industrial Court to ensure the resumed work, had not yielded any results with the striking doctor. The NAD president further confirmed that none of our members in federal institutions have received their salary. And now the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has pegged the fee for post-unified tertiary matriculation examination post-UTME at 2,000 naira. It also adopted the minimum cut-off marks for 2021/2022 admissions sent by head of tertiary institutions across the country. The adoption signifies that there will be no uniform cut-off marks for 2022/2021, as was done in the past. Every institution is expected to maintain its minimum score during the admissions. These are some of the decisions taken on Tuesday's 2021 policy meeting held virtually and chaired by the Minister of Education, Adamu, at the headquarters of JAMB in Wari, the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. The JAMB Registrar, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, displayed the minimum cut-off marks adopted by tertiary institutions at the meeting. The University of Maiduguri proposed 150, Usman Danfodio University Sokoto proposed 140, Port Atlantic University proposed 210, University of Lagos 200, Lagos State University 190, Covenant University 190, and Bayero University Kano 180. Moving on to other stories, the Pan-Yoruba social cultural group Afenifere has called on Nigerians to defend themselves against bandits, saying they have declared war on the country. The group also insisted that there must be restructuring in order to solve the problems bedeviling in the country, adding that it must not be before the next elections in the country. The group stated this in a communique after its monthly meeting at the home of its acting leader, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, in Sanyogbo, Ijebu-Ode, Ogun State on Tuesday. In the communique signed by the National Publicity Secretary of Afenifere, Jare Ajayi, the group also called on the government and security agencies to halt the unbridled influx of people with questionable intentions in order to check Nigerians' unprecedented security problems. Afenifere observed that terrorism and related vices, including kidnapping, are now so worrisome that in some cases our people in places like Yewa, Ogun State, and Oke, Ogun in Oyo State, among others, are forced to relocate to Benin Republic and other West African countries. Afenifere stated urgent actions must be taken to guarantee the security of these people and to put a stop to what is causing them agonies. Meanwhile, members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, have asked Nigerians to hold the federal government responsible for the next action on government failure to honor an agreement it signed with them. as he spoke of a plan to hold an emergency National Executive Council NEC this week with its leaders and principal officials to decide its members' next line of action. The union said it will follow up its NEC meeting with consultations in all its chapters should the government fail to implement its promises to its Agric lecturers. And now, Director General of the Nigerian Center of Disease Control, NCDC, Dr. Chikwe Ihekwazu, has been appointed as an Assistant Director General of the World Health Organization in charge of health emergency intelligence. According to the World Health Organization Director General, Ihekwazu will lead the work ongoing threatening pandemic and epidemic intelligence globally, including heading the World Health Organization Hub for Pandemic and Epidemic Intelligence in Berlin. He also added that Dr. Ihekwazu's appointment will help further accelerate the WHO's work in health emergencies. And moving on, some human rights activists in Edo State believe that the COVID-19 compulsory vaccination directive by Governor Godwin Obaseki is a misplaced priority and should be reviewed. The group, led by Comrade Curtis Ogbegbo, held a protest in Benin City to voice their disapproval.
Behind his action, because those that are producing the vaccine did not make it compulsory, why is it Obaseki that he want to make it compulsory? Is he working in line with those that really produce this vaccine? Is a question that need to be answered. So we are warning every authority, every forces that want to enforce this act of illegality on Nigerian citizens. We will resist it with almost sagacity. Yes! We will not allow such act of illegality to be enforced on our people, because injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
We, the civil rights organization, which is domiciled in Edo State here, are saying that the position of the governor as to the forceful vaccination, or rather the compulsory vaccination of this COVID-19 upon the citizens is a gross violation of the fundamental human right. We are not saying that COVID-19 vaccination should not be carried out, but our position here is that they should be encouraged. The idea of coercing them to take it should be discouraged.
Away from that, the Ondo State Police Command says it's mapping out strategies to tackle the rising cases of bullion van attacks. The public relations officer of the command, Fumilayo Odolami, said the command is determined to bring the situation under control.
We're having test patrol, visibility policing, even on the highway. Commuters can testify. For each, like 2 to 3 kilometers that you move, you see our men on the highway. Then all criminal hideouts, suspected hideouts, we continue with raiding, incessant trading lately now, all because of this. And aside from that, we've been able to talk to people more, do more of community.
Also, the Ondo State government says it is now compulsory for residents to get COVID-19 vaccination to curb the spread of the pandemic. The Information Commissioner Donald Ojowo said this while briefing newsmen after the weekly Executive Council meeting in Akure. He stressed that the decision was made in view of the ongoing efforts of the state government to contain the spread of the Delta variant of the virus.
The only condition within, after the expiration of these 2 weeks, shall be the only condition to access worship places such as churches, mosques, and public places at banks, offices, and public functions. In other words, the public sector, the public service is not insulated from the directive. All staff, all workers in the public service have been enjoined as a matter of urgency, and it is compulsory that they get vaccinated.
And now members of the two foremost political parties in Nigeria, APC and PDP, have been engaging in war of words since the recent round of crisis in just erupted. The PDP is accusing the Plateau State Governor Simeon Bakolalong of his poor handling of the situation, while the APC Ford is accusing the PDP of plotting to cause disunity in the state.
We note with utter disgust and total disappointment the desperate attempt by some members of the opposition PDP in the state and elsewhere to use this unfortunate development to advance selfish and cheap political ambitions. In particular, we have noted their unacceptable utterances and inserting comments on both the traditional and social media, which are carefully targeted at discrediting the Governor of Plateau State, Right Honorable Dr. Simon Bakolalong, and portraying the government as uncaring with the hope of reviving their faded glory as a rejected political party in the state and country at large. We have a lot of evidence to prove this claim, but we can cite a few to expose to the people of Plateau State and Nigerians the hidden agenda of the PDP to use crisis and the lives of innocent people as a bargaining chip.
The member representing Ekeremo constituency 1 in the Bayelsa State House of Assembly, Tare Pori, has called on the federal government to give financial aid to the state governments in order to bring the Deep Seaport project into fruition. The lawmaker made this call in Agua on Tuesday while briefing youthmen on some factors which earlier delayed the smooth execution of the Sagbama-Ekeremo Road and the Deep Seaport, which is sited in the Ekeremo local government area of Bayelsa State.
So you know that the Seaport, no doubt, will go a long way in boosting the economic profile of Bayelsa State and by extension the federal government. Again, the Seaport is more or less an aftermath of the Bayelsa West Senatorial Road. You cannot practically have a seaport without a road leading to the seaport. And you know that these are big ticket projects and it's also federal inclined. It is expected and it's also expedient that federal government also give a helping hand, especially the Ministry of Transport and other critical stakeholders and international partners to come in to support Bayelsa State government in order to.
Now coming up next is business news.
Thank you for joining us. I am Frank Omalape. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies will on Tuesday decide whether to press on with plans to increase crude oil production by 400,000 barrels per day monthly. The group, known as OPEC+, seeks to eventually eliminate its historic output cuts implemented at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. The global oil benchmark Brent crude fell by 0.44 to $72.97 per barrel in early trade on Wednesday. After a couple of weeks of wrangling, OPEC resolved on July 18 to increase their overall production by 400,000 barrels per day on a monthly basis, starting from the August until purchasing or phasing out the 5.8 million barrel per day production adjustment. And away from there now, the senior special advisor to the president of the Africa Development Bank on Industrialization, Banjo Onyeyinka, has disclosed that 520 million US dollars has been earmarked for the development of the first phase of special agro-industrial processing zones in some selected states across Nigeria. According to him, the AFDB committed $160 million, the Africa Growing Together Fund $50 million, the Islamic Development Bank $150 million, while the International Fund for Agricultural Development committed $160 million US dollars for the development of the project. in Nigeria. He added that the project will be inaugurated in the selected state before the end of the year. And in the meantime, Nigeria's external reserves rose by $500 million in 1 week to the highest point in more than 2 months, according to the latest data from the Central Bank of Nigeria. The reserves, which have been wobbling in recent weeks, jumped from $33.43 billion on August 23 to $33.9 billion on Monday, the highest since June 11. The CBN data shows that the reserves fell to a record low of $33.09 billion on July 12 from $34 billion on June 10. In a related development, the Naira appreciated against the dollar on Tuesday at both the parallel market and in the investors' and exporters' foreign exchange window. The Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria says the greatest problem causing the rise in the cost of liquefied petroleum gas, popularly called cooking gas, is the fact that the Naira against the United States dollars is falling. This came as a renowned petroleum engineer and energy analyst, Balazeka, stated that the dormancy of Nigeria's refineries had warranted massive import of LPG into the country. The price of LPG jumped by over 100% within 8 months as the federal government recently implemented a 7.5% value-added tax on imported cooking gas. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria says it has opened a black book for customers obtaining foreign exchange under false pretense. According to the Apex Bank, foreign exchange should be strictly meant for banks' customers on genuine trips overseas, adding that those using travel documents to obtain foreign exchange and thereafter cancel their purported trips to divert the forex for other use would be blacklisted. The Director of Banking Supervision, Haruna Mustafa, gave the notice via circular yesterday to all deposit money banks. The purpose, though not clearly stated, might be to use the list to bar some customers from accessing forex in the future. Now, Nigeria's telecommunications sector attracted a $3.9 billion foreign investment portfolio and direct portfolio. The 2021 telecommunications industry report released by Augusto & Co., which reviewed these, observed that this accounted for an average of 7% of Nigeria's total capital importation during the same period. It informed that the industry has consistently remained one of the top 5 ranking economic sectors for foreign investment during the period. Augusto & Co. said it believed the imminent deployment of 5G technology and the federal government of Nigeria's broadband penetration target of 70% by 2025 will support substantial additional foreign investment in the near to medium-term future. And now let's flip over to African business news now. After 18 months of travel restrictions, tourists can once enjoy the beauty of ancient tombs as a handful of tourists take photos of the great Egyptian pyramids. Tourism accounts for around 9% of the country's GDP, but according to the Tourism Ministry, less than a quarter of the usual number of tourists visited Egypt in 2020, signaling a 55% fall in GDP. The industry had already suffered from instability in the country following the 2011 political unrest. The government made the vaccination of tourism workers in the South Sinai and the Red Sea governorates to a top priority that represent about 2 million people, given the vaccine in the country's most visited resorts. Away from there now, Congo will take over organization of the petroleum exporting country's rotating presidency in 2022, succeeding neighbors Angola. The oil cartel Secretary General Mohamed Bakindo was in the Central African country this week, where he met with the country's leaders. With 2.9 billion barrels of oil reserves and 10 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, the Congo is driving development across the entire energy value chain. Congo's state oil company, SMPC, has emphasized the role that natural gas will play in alleviating poverty and positioning the country as a regional energy hub. Congo is the 3rd largest oil producer in sub-Saharan Africa after Nigeria and Angola, with an estimated production of 336,000 barrels of crude oil per day. An international business now, oil prices recovered on Wednesday after a U.S. industry report showed crude inventories fell more than expected last week, steadying after overnight losses from the impact of Hurricane Ida on U.S. Refineries. Prices rose ahead of the OPEC meeting at early trade, where the organization of the petroleum exporting country, Russian allies, are expected to stick to a plan to add about 400,000 barrels per day each month through December. Brent crude futures for November gained 49 cents, or about 0.7%, to touch down to around $72.12 a barrel in early trade, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures for October was around $69 a barrel, or 50 cents, or 0.7% earlier. Tuesday's report from the American Petroleum Institute, API, that showed a bigger than expected drop in U.S. crude inventories was bullish and is supporting prices. And now UK house prices accelerate in August, the Nationwide has said, with values now 13% higher than before the pandemic. The Building Society said that annual house price growth sped up to 11%, with the average home costing £248,000. It said property prices recorded their second largest month-on-month rise in 15 years, up by 2.1%. The Nationwide said the increase was surprising given the benefit from stamp duty holidays, which was reduced. The Nationwide chief economist Robert Gardner said there was strong demand from those buying a property priced between £125,000 and £250,000, as there were still some stamp duty savings in parts of the UK. And now Britons are facing a multi-billion savings shortfall, despite many putting away extra cash during the pandemic, according to a new report. The Yorkshire Building Society says the difference between people's current savings and the amount they would need to feel financially secure totals £371 billion. That's despite the UK household savings rate more than doubling to 16% in 2020. With lockdown restrictions reducing outgoings such as commuting costs, some people have found they had an opportunity to save more than over the past year and a half. In just 8 months, Larry Page, 48, and Sergey Brin, 47, both founders of Google, have recorded impressive gains in their wealth valuation. The wealth valuation of Larry Page and Sergey Brin, respectively, was around $125 billion and $124 billion at the end of August, with them earning $47.3 and $46.3 billion during the past 7 months, respectively, and collectively both men have earned $93.6 billion. Well, and that's all we have time for business news at this time. Many thanks for watching. I am Frank Komalape. It's back to you now.
Thank you, Frank. Up next is Sport Business with Chidechi, but before then, we'll take a short break.
Welcome to the Sports Business Update. I am Chidechi Chidi. Now, Cristiano Ronaldo completed his shock move back to Manchester United on transfer deadline day to help push Premier League clubs' outlay past £1 billion, but overall spending has dropped for a second year in a row. The Portugal forward's eye-catching Old Trafford return was one of the early moves to be rubber-stamped on Tuesday before England's summer window closed at 11 p.m. British Standard Time. The biggest deal was Nikola Vlasic's £26.8 million move from CSKA Moscow to West Ham, while Chelsea left it late to sign Saul Niguez on loan from Atletico Madrid. In total, Premier League's clubs spent £1.1 billion on transfers during the window, which was opened from 9th of June until 31st of August. That outlay was 11% lower than the previous summer's total of £1.3 billion itself, was a 9% fall from 2019, according to the financial services firm Deloitte. This is the lowest collective gross spend by Premier League clubs since 2015, and the first time there has been a consecutive decline since the global financial crisis between 2008 and 2010. And moving on to other stories, as a prelude to the next FIFA World Cup that will take place in 2022 in Qatar, the African Union of Broadcasting has been handed the free-to-air rights for the qualifying matches in 17 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, thus making the AUB the exclusive partner for the commercialization of the rights in the countries such as Angola, Benin, Botswana, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Congo, Cote d'Ivoire, Democratic Republic of Congo, Gabon, Guinea, Madagascar, Mali, Mauritius, Mozambique, Namibia, Senegal, and Zambia. Meanwhile, Integral, Nigeria's leading full-service sports marketing agency, has acquired the exclusive media rights in Nigeria to broadcast the FIFA World Cup 2022 qualifying matches involving the Super Eagles. The next round of qualifiers for the African teams is scheduled to start in September, with the Super Eagles playing at home on September the 3rd in Lagos, and will run until March 2022. And that's all for now from the Sports Business Corner update. Back to you in the studios.
Thank you, Judechi. And now in entertainment business. Now, the Grammy-winning Nigerian superstar Wizkid's smash hit single Essence on Monday hit a new peak of 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. On the same day, the record hit #1 on Billboard R&B Hip-Hop Airplay chart this week. This comes after the song hits number 16 on the chart last week, Monday, 13 days after the remix with Bieber was released. The Canadian superstar also shot his own video for the song. A day prior to August 20, a Twitter account, Wizkid Radio, written that due to the remix with Justin Bieber, Essence received 3.2 million ratio audience in the US with 87.3 thousand unit sales this week, rising to 58% chart point and a margin as the highest gainer amongst 100 songs. Meanwhile, Jojo Maman Beb is raising prices for the first time in about 5 years due to widespread supply chain issues. The baby clothing and goods retailer said he had seen shipping costs quadruple in recent months. Its commercial director, Gwen Milligan, said the outfit has no choice but to pass on some of these costs to customers. Price hikes will not be uniform across the board, but will depend on each item and what it is made of. Ms. Milligan told BBC Radio 4's Today program that the firm had seen increase in the cost of raw materials such as wood, paper, and plastics, which may affect items such as Eats toys or changing mat. And that's all we have for your news now today. For more stories, visit our website. Please follow all of our social media platforms. My name is Margaret Opera.